Chapter 5: Real Estate. Most of us have heard the term real estate. But did you know the real estate industry is the biggest industry in the United States? Did you also know the U.S. Constitution used to require you to own real estate just to vote? With that said, you can see how important real estate is, especially in America. Real estate is a gateway to wealth, and may be one of the first investments you make in life. Yes, buying a home is an investment. With that said, there are all types of real estate. There is residential real estate that can include single-family homes, condominiums, townhouses, duplexes, and vacation homes. Then there is commercial real estate that can include apartment buildings, shopping centers, hotels, and offices. There is also industrial real estate, like factories and warehouses. All of these different areas make up the trillion-dollar real estate industry. In most cases, your first experience with real estate will be with residential real estate and buying a home. Because of this, we will primarily focus on residential real estate in this chapter. How real estate works. The residential real estate industry is made of three key groups. You have buyers, sellers, real estate agents, and banks. Buyers and sellers. Buyers and sellers can be people like you and me, looking to buy their first home or sell the one they have. You also have investors who buy and sell homes as a business. I'm sure you have heard the term flipping houses. This is when an investor buys a home and resells it for more after fixing it up. Banks can also be home sellers, but we will talk more about that later. Next, you have real estate agents. Real estate agents help buyers and sellers buy and sell property. A seller's agent will list the property for sale and help find buyers. They will help set the price of the property using recently sold homes called comparables or comps. They may help stage the property and set up an open house for potential buyers. Once you find a potential buyer, seller's agents will assist in negotiations and help to get the highest price possible. Next, you have buyer's agents. Buyer's agents help buyers purchase properties. They can help find a property that meets your needs and set up showings to view them. Buyer's agents will also help negotiate price and submit the purchase offer. Once an offer is accepted, they can also help set up a property inspection and appraisal. Buyer's agents will also work with the buyer to obtain financing from a bank or lender. A good real estate agent should be able to walk you through the buying or selling process from start to finish. For their services, real estate agents are paid a commission once the deal is done. The average commission is 3% of the sales price. The last key group in the real estate industry is banks. Banks provide money for buyers to purchase real estate. This is done by using what is called a mortgage. Roughly 70% of homes are bought using a mortgage. A mortgage allows qualified buyers to purchase property for as little as 3.5% of the purchase price. We will talk more about how to qualify for a mortgage later in this chapter. Once the bank issues the mortgage, the buyer will be required to make monthly payments for the term of the loan. Most first-time buyers start with a 30-year mortgage. The property will then act as collateral against the loan. This means if the buyer fails to pay the mortgage, the bank has the right to repossess the property. The process of repossession is called foreclosure. We mentioned earlier that banks can also be sellers of property. Foreclosed or bank-owned properties provide some of the best opportunities for buyers looking to enter the real estate market. Investing in real estate. Anyone who buys or sells real estate is a real estate investor. This means if you are buying a home to live in, use as a rental, Airbnb, or to fix and flip, always look at the purchase as an investment. Real estate investments, just like any other investment, come with risk, and it is important to do your due diligence. I like to call this giving the property the L.I.A.R Test. L.I.A.R stands for location, inspection, appraisal, and rules. First, location. Location is one of the most important factors to consider when deciding to buy real estate. This is because location is the one feature that can't be changed or duplicated. When judging location, always ask yourself, what can I get to in 10 minutes if I decide to jump in my car or call an Uber? Then ask yourself, what can I get to in 30 minutes? Are you close to the water or one of the area's main attractions? In 30 minutes, can you reach downtown or the city center? The closer you are to employment centers, shopping, entertainment, and recreation, the more valuable the location will be. Next, look to see how close you are to freeways, train stations, and airports. Access to transportation hubs is always key when considering location. Especially in today's world, when long commutes are becoming less and less desirable. Other things to consider are the school system, crime rates, and the neighborhood's status or reputation. With that said, the recent trend of gentrification has proven these characteristics can change fast. With any investment, the goal is to get in low before the prices get high. Look for real estate in locations that are trending up. Remember, neighborhoods can change, but location won't. Once you have checked out the location, the next step is inspection. Put simply, inspection is checking the condition of the property. Has the property been recently renovated, or is it unlivable? The condition of the property will always affect the price someone is willing to pay for it. If the property is in great condition, you can expect to pay top dollar. However, if the property is in poor condition, you may be able to get it at a discount. In my opinion, a discount on a property in poor condition is better than a premium on a house in good condition, especially if you have the time and resources to fix it up. We will talk about that more when we talk about flipping houses. The bottom line is, make sure to inspect the property and confirm its condition before buying. The next part of our lie detector test is appraisal. Appraisal is when you estimate the value of the property. If you are using a mortgage to buy a property, the bank will require an appraisal. However, before you get to that step, you should be doing your own appraisal. Once you have completed the first two steps, by evaluating the location and inspecting the property for its condition, it shouldn't be hard to come up with an estimate of the property's value. No appraisal is exact, and yours doesn't have to be either. The primary purpose is to answer one question. Is the price of this property worth it? One of the biggest mistakes in real estate is overpaying for a property. To get started on your personal appraisal, go to a website like Zillow or Redfin. Next, search for properties that have sold recently in that location. This is called finding comps. If you find similar properties that have sold for more or close to the same price, then you can feel comfortable that the property is worth it. Always make sure to consider the square footage and condition when looking at comps. Again, you are only trying to get an estimate of the property's value. The final step of the L.I.A.R test is rules. When we say rules, we mean researching the rules associated with the property. People always ask what this means and are unaware that many properties come with rules that must be followed. Have you ever heard of an HOA or a condo association? What about zoning? Depending on the location, a property may have restrictions that govern what can and can't be done with the property. For example, some HOAs won't allow you to use the property for Airbnb. Others may limit the number of vehicles you can have. If the property is in a residential zone, you may not be able to turn it into a duplex. All of these different rules can impact your potential investment. Make sure you research the rules before moving forward with any real estate purchase. Giving a potential real estate investment a L.I.A.R test will help you separate opportunities from mistakes. Each opportunity will come with different challenges, but location, inspection, appraisal, and rules will always play a part. You will see the benefits as we look at some of the most popular types of real estate investments. Buying a home. In most cases, buying a home will be your first experience with real estate investing. Buying a home is a big decision and can also be a big accomplishment. However, buying a home is different than other real estate investments. In fact, some people say it is not an investment, but trust me, it is. The difference is, some people treat buying a home as a luxury rather than an investment, and the truth is, it can be both. You must ask yourself, why are you buying a home, and make a decision if this is going to be an investment or a luxury. To do this, consider two things. First, what is the condition of the property? Is it something you are going to fix up, or is it new construction? Remember, a discount on a property in poor condition is better than a premium on a house in good condition. This is because you can gain equity by fixing up a home. Equity is the difference between what a property costs and what it is worth. We have all seen the HGTV shows where they spend $250,000 to buy and fix up a house, but then the house is worth $300,000. That extra $50,000 is equity. Going into a home with equity is the best way to guarantee you earn a return on your investment. The second thing to consider is, how long do you plan to stay in the home? If the answer is less than 3 years, I would consider this a luxury purchase. The longer you stay in a home, the more equity you will build, and the greater chance the home will appreciate. This means the chances you will see a return on your investment will increase. Also, if you stay in a home at least 3 years, you can avoid taxes on any potential profits. I'm not saying it's impossible to make a return in under 3 years, but the chances are much less, and the return will probably be much smaller. Especially if you are buying a new construction or recently renovated property. Steps to buying a home. The first step to buying a home is to run the numbers. When it comes to buying a home, it's all about the numbers. Whether it's your credit score, income, debt-to-income ratio, or your down payment, these are all numbers you need to know. First, start with your credit score. The higher your credit score, the better your chance to get approved for a mortgage. FHA loans usually require a credit score of 580 or higher. A score of 720 or higher will allow you to qualify for a conventional loan. We'll talk more about the difference between an FHA loan and a conventional loan when we discuss financing. The bottom line is, know your credit score before you apply for a mortgage. The better your credit score, the lower your interest rate, and when it comes to mortgages, a low interest rate is what it's all about. If you have questions about your credit score and how to improve it, make sure to read Chapter 3. The next numbers to know are your income and, most importantly, your debt-to-income ratio, or DTI. Your DTI is your monthly expenses divided by your gross monthly income. Your monthly expenses would include rent, car payments, student loans, child support, and credit card payments. Basically, anything that would show up on a credit report. Expenses like utilities, childcare, and groceries would not be included. For income, simply take your gross monthly income. Gross income is the amount you earn before taxes and insurance are taken out. Make sure you have check stubs or tax returns to support your income. Banks take income verification very seriously. Let's look at an example. Say you pay $1,500 a month for rent, $300 a month for a car payment, and $200 for credit cards. Your monthly expenses would be $2,000 per month. If your gross monthly income is $5,000, your debt-to-income ratio would be 40%. $2,000 per month in expenses divided by $5,000 of gross income. Banks like your DTI to be under 43%. So, for this example, the $1,500 that you are paying for rent is probably close to what your mortgage payment would need to be. With that said, make sure you know your income and DTI before you start the home buying process. The last number you need to know is that number under balance in your bank account. Yes, buying a home will take some cash, even if you are using a mortgage to buy it. Most banks require a down payment for a mortgage. You will also have to put down a deposit with your offer to purchase a home. I would recommend saving a minimum of 5% of the purchase price. So, if you want a $300,000 home, you need to save at least $15,000. With that said, it's possible to get a loan with less than 5% down, and there are programs out there that can help with down payment assistance and closing costs. Regardless, I would still recommend saving the money. Buying a home is a big responsibility, and if you end up having extra money, it will only help you in the long run. After you run the numbers, the next step is to start a watch list. Your watch list should be a list of neighborhoods or zip codes that have homes in your budget. You can start by going to redfin.com or zillow.com. Do a general search for homes in your price range and get an idea of the types of homes and locations that interest you. If you find a home in a location you are not familiar with, I recommend doing a drive-by to check out the area. You can also use Street View, but nothing's better than seeing it for yourself. Remember, you will have to prioritize your watch list. Your budget will likely determine the size, location, and amenities you can afford. With that in mind, make sure you identify what's most important to you in a home. Call the professionals. At this point, you should have an idea on what you can afford and the location and type of home you are looking for. Now would be a good time to contact a real estate agent. In most cases, especially for a buyer, having an agent is a no-brainer. That's because the seller of the property you buy pays your agent's commission. At least that's how it works for now. Soon, there may be changes on how real estate commissions work. But for now, as a buyer, having an agent costs you nothing. With that said, make sure you are comfortable with your agent. You want to make sure they are knowledgeable and are going to act quickly and professionally on your behalf. In today's market, homes are selling quicker than ever, so your agent may have to act fast in order for you to be successful buying a home. A good agent will also have relationships with lenders, home inspectors, and general contractors that can help you along the way. Get pre-approved. Most people don't pay all cash for a home. So, if you are most people, you will need to get a mortgage. The first step in getting a mortgage and buying a home is pre-approval. A pre-approval is when a bank or lender will review your income, debt, and credit history. Based on this initial review, the bank will pre-approve you for a mortgage. This approval will usually come in the form of a letter called a pre-approval letter. When you submit an offer for a home, you would include this pre-approval letter to show the seller you have the funds to purchase the home. It is important to have your documents together before applying for a pre-approval. This would include your pay statements, tax returns, and bank statements. If you have any other income that you would like them to consider, make sure you have documents to support these amounts. Remember, you don't have to use the same bank to finance your loan that you used for your pre-approval. You should always get estimates from multiple banks to compare interest rates and fees before actually committing to a bank. Seek and destroy. The next step in the home buying process is to seek and destroy. I know you're asking yourself, what is seek and destroy? Simply put, seek and destroy is the process of finding a home and getting the seller to accept your offer. To some, it may sound harsh, but in today's market, this is the mentality you must have to get a property under contract. The seek and destroy mentality means you should be looking at listings daily. When you find a listing that fits your criteria, you should schedule a showing ASAP. During the showing, make sure to view the entire property, inside and out. Keep an eye out for structural issues, like cracks in walls or uneven floors. You also want to view the condition of the appliances and HVAC systems. Some other things you can do are check water pressure by turning on faucets, make sure the light switches work, check if the doors and windows open smoothly, and check the neighboring property's condition. Don't worry, you don't have to catch everything. You will have a chance to do a professional inspection once the property is under contract. After viewing the property, make sure to give it the L.I.A.R test. If it passes the test, you should consider making an offer. Don't feel pressured to make an offer unless you are sure this is the home for you, but don't wait too long to decide because you could also miss the opportunity. Make an offer they can't refuse. Making an offer on a home can be a confusing and stressful process, especially in today's market when homes are going under contract fast and selling over the asking price. There is a strong chance you will only have one shot at making an offer, so you must make an offer the seller can't refuse. In order to make an offer they can't refuse, you must consider several things. The first thing to consider is price. Ask yourself, what is the highest amount you would pay for the property? You do not have to offer your highest and best, but remember, if your offer is too low, you could miss your chance. If you have given the home a L.I.A.R test, you should know what comparable homes are selling for in the area. I also recommend looking at how many days the house has been on the market. If it has been on the market for longer than 15 days, there is a strong chance you could offer the list price or slightly below the list price. If you are making an offer during the first 15 days on the market, you should consider an offer at the list price or slightly over. Again, we are in a seller's market. If we move to a buyer's market, then offers under the list price would have a stronger chance of being accepted. The second thing to consider are the contingencies. A contingency is an agreement within the contract that says certain things must happen before the sale can close. Some common contingencies are the inspection contingency, appraisal contingency, and the finance contingency. In real estate, the less contingencies you have in your contract, the stronger the offer will be for the seller. The first contingency to consider is the inspection contingency. The inspection contingency is one of the most common and most important contingencies in a real estate contract. The inspection contingency says you get to have a professional inspection before you buy the home. If after the inspection you want out of the contract, you would be released from the agreement and receive your deposit back. I would recommend you have an inspection contingency in your contract. However, in a seller's market, many buyers forego an inspection contingency in an effort to make their offer stronger. This can benefit the seller by shortening the time it takes to close and preventing buyers from asking for repairs or reductions in the offer price. Another common contingency is the finance contingency. The finance contingency says that if the buyer is not approved for a mortgage, then they are released from the purchase contract. This contingency is standard for buyers using a mortgage to finance their home purchase. However, it is also why cash offers are so popular and preferred over buyers who are using a mortgage to finance the purchase. Sellers favor cash offers because they can close quickly and there are less chances the deal will fall through. If you have the means to make a cash offer and eliminating the finance contingency, there is a strong chance you will make an offer they can't refuse. The last common contingency is the appraisal contingency. The appraisal contingency states the house must appraise for the selling price or above. Again, buyers may forego this contingency in an effort to make their offer stronger. However, if you are taking out a mortgage to buy the property, the bank may require an appraisal contingency. If the bank does not require the appraisal contingency, they may only loan you an amount up to the appraised value of the property. For example, if you offer $300,000 for the home, and it only appraises for $290,000, the bank would base your loan on the $290,000 appraised value. You would have to come up with the other $10,000 in cash. Be very careful paying more than the appraised value for a home. If prices start to decline, you could easily wind up owing more than the home is worth. The last two things to consider when drafting an offer the seller can't refuse is setting the closing date and determining the amount of your earnest money deposit. When it comes to closing dates, the sooner the closing, the stronger the offer. Unless the seller requests additional time to relocate, the sooner you are able to close the deal and get them their money, the better. Again, this is where removing contingencies and having a cash offer can make a big difference. A mortgage can take 30 to 45 days after your offer has been accepted to receive a clear to close. A cash offer could close in as little as 10 days. Keep this in mind when submitting your offer. I understand that having a cash offer may not be realistic, but do your best to keep your closing date under 45 days from offer acceptance. You can always ask for an extension if needed, but the seller may push back, so be prepared to negotiate. The last thing to consider when drafting your offer is your earnest money deposit or EMD. An earnest money deposit is like a security deposit. It is the money you put down with your offer to show you are a serious buyer. Once you close on the home, the earnest money goes towards your down payment. If you decide to back out of the purchase for a reason not outlined in one of your contingencies, you'll lose your earnest money deposit. The standard EMD is between 1% and 3% of the purchase price. If your offer is accepted, the EMD closing the deal. Once you get a house under contract, as a buyer, it is up to you to close the deal. In most cases, the first thing you will want to do is hire a professional inspector to inspect the home. A good real estate agent should be able to recommend a home inspector. You can also search online, but make sure to read reviews and compare pricing. The inspection should be scheduled as soon as possible, especially if you have an inspection contingency. Most inspection contingencies have a deadline. This means, if you do not respond by the deadline, you will no longer be able to get out of the contract without forfeiting your deposit. If you do run into scheduling issues, make sure you request an extension in writing. I would also recommend you be there for the inspection. It will help you get familiar with the home, and if there are any issues, you will be able to see them firsthand. Once the inspection is complete, the inspector should provide you a detailed inspection report. If there are no major issues, and you are comfortable with the condition of the home, you would notify the seller and proceed with the purchase. If you do discover major issues or aren't comfortable with the condition of the home, you have two options. The first, and most obvious option, would be to walk away from the deal and exercise your inspection contingency. The other option you have would be to try and negotiate with the seller. In most cases, you would request one of three things. 1. You could ask the seller to repair the issue. Sellers don't usually like this option because they don't want to spend any money and they don't want to be responsible for the repairs if they aren't done correctly. If the seller does agree to make the repair, make sure it is done professionally and be sure to inspect the repair before close. The second, and more popular option, would be to ask the seller for a credit at closing. This would allow you to make the repair on your own and exclude the seller from any responsibility regarding the repair. It will also save the seller from having to spend any money, and as the buyer, it would lower the amount of money you have to bring to the closing table. Make sure you check with your lender before negotiating a closing credit. In some cases, closing credits are capped at a certain percentage. This means if major repairs are needed, the credit may not be enough to cover the cost. In that case, you may want to consider a third option. Similar to a seller credit, the third option would be to ask for a reduction in the sale price. A price reduction would also exclude the seller from any responsibility regarding the repair and save the seller from having to spend any money. There is also no limit on the size of a price reduction in case a large repair is needed. Remember, this is your last chance to object to the condition of the property. After you release the inspection contingency, you are saying you will accept the property as is. Next, if you have given the property the L.I.A.R test, you know that after inspection comes appraisal. However, in this case, the appraisal will be done by a professional appraiser selected by the bank. This appraisal will be used to determine the value of your home for the purpose of approving your mortgage. The lender will select the appraiser and then work with the seller to schedule the appraisal. The appraiser will be looking at the condition and square footage of the home. They will also pull recent sales of comparable homes. After the appraisal is complete, the appraiser will issue an appraisal report. The appraisal report will list the details of the home, the comparable homes that were used for comparison, and the appraised fair market value. If the appraised value is greater than or equal to your offer price, you would satisfy the appraisal contingency. If the appraised value is lower than your offer price, you would need to make up the difference between the appraised value and the offer price. This can be done by coming up with the difference in cash or trying to renegotiate with the seller to lower the price. You could also contest the appraisal and try to request a new one. Unfortunately, you may have to pay for the additional appraisal, so make sure you have documentation to support your objection. The final step to complete in the mortgage process is called underwriting. Underwriting is the process of approving your mortgage. Some parts of the underwriting process begin when you are first pre-approved for a mortgage. For example, a credit check and income verification would be done during pre-approval. However, during underwriting, the bank will do a complete examination of your finances. This would include investments, savings, retirement accounts, and employment history. They will also verify your identity and address history. With that said, during the underwriting process, it is very important to have your documentation and records together so you can respond to requests quickly. For example, if the lender asks for your tax returns or bank statements, you want to have these ready so you can send it quickly and avoid a delay in your closing. Once you've met all the underwriter's requests and requirements, you will receive a clear to close. A clear to close means that the lender has approved your mortgage. Closing day can be a stressful but exciting day. Before closing, you should schedule a final walkthrough. I would recommend scheduling the final walkthrough the morning of closing, or as close to closing as possible. Your final walkthrough will be to ensure the property is in the same condition as when you made your offer. You also want to confirm any agreed upon repairs are completed and the property is vacant, including all personal property that will not convey with the property. Once your final inspection is complete, it's time for the actual closing. You can expect to spend a few hours at the title company signing paperwork. Most title companies will provide you a list of any items to bring to closing. Once the signing is complete, you will receive your keys and it's time to move in. House flipping. If you watch TV or have any interest in real estate investing, I'm sure you have heard the term flipping. House flipping is when you buy a run-down or outdated property, fix it up, and sell it for a profit. Flipping can be a great way to make money in real estate. However, it is not always as easy as it seems on HGTV. To be successful at house flipping, you must master the techniques discussed earlier in this chapter. That includes being able to give a potential real estate investment a L.I.A.R test. You will also have to be an expert at seek and destroy and closing the deal. Remember, finding a house to flip is different than finding one to live in. Although some of the core principles are the same, you may have to develop different strategies to be successful. With that said, let's look at some key points to focus on when evaluating a fix and flip opportunity. After repair value. The after repair value, or ARV, is the value of the property after you fix it up. The ARV is very important in deciding whether or not a fix and flip opportunity will be successful. For example, say you find a property that is listed for $100,000 and it will cost $25,000 to fix it up. That means your expenses would be roughly $125,000. If the after repair value of the property was $120,000, you could potentially lose $5,000. On the other hand, if the after repair value of the property was $150,000, you could potentially make $25,000. Now, these are just rough estimates, but the idea is to show the importance of the ARV. Paying too much for a property or spending too much for repairs is the most common mistake investors make when executing a fix and flip. By calculating the ARV, you will have an idea of what you should be paying for the property and repairs. Use the tips outlined in the L.I.A.R test to come up with an appraisal or ARV for the property. The only difference is, you would consider the after repair condition of the property. Once you have the ARV, you can use some simple calculations to determine a good price to pay for the property and repairs. The 70% rule. The 70% rule says that you shouldn't pay more than 70% of the after repair value of a property, minus the cost to fix it up. In our earlier example, we had a property listed for $100,000 and a cost of $25,000 to fix up. Using the after repair value of $150,000, let's apply the 70% rule. First, take 70% of the ARV. That would be 70% of $150,000, which is equal to $105,000. Now subtract the cost to fix it up. That would be $105,000 minus $25,000, which is equal to $80,000. In this example, the most you would want to pay for this property is $80,000. Again, these are only rough estimates, but applying the 70% rule can help when comparing fix and flip opportunities. Fix or flop. I'm sure you have all seen a reality show about fixing up houses. The story is always the same. They buy a property and start fixing it up, when all of a sudden, they discover an issue they didn't plan for. Well, this doesn't just happen on TV. That is why one of the most important parts of a fix and flip is properly estimating the repair costs. A good investor must have a vision for every project and be able to execute that vision within budget. Before you begin calculating repair costs, understand what the vision will be for the project. You can again start with the L.I.A.R test. Look at where the property is located. Is it a high-end neighborhood, or does it have more moderately priced homes? In a moderately priced neighborhood, buyers may not want to pay more for high-end amenities. If you're not familiar with the neighborhood, try to research some recently renovated comps or look for an open house of a similar home. Remember, your vision must match your budget, and your budget must match your vision. Over or under improving a property is a common mistake and can quickly affect your profits at the closing table. Once you have a vision for your project, the next step is to inspect the property. When inspecting a fix and flip opportunity, the first thing to check for is big-ticket items. That includes things like a roof, foundation, mold, and HVAC. Big-ticket items can quickly deplete a renovation budget, especially if the repairs are unexpected. Make sure to be thorough when inspecting the property. I would recommend going room by room and writing down any needed repairs. For example, does the room need paint or flooring? Does it need new light and door fixtures? Write down as many notes as possible and try to include quantities and sizes for each room. Also make sure to take a lot of pictures. Even the most detailed person can miss something. Having lots of pictures and videos will help you when you are trying to put together your renovation budget. Now that you've completed the inspection of the property, it's time to calculate your renovation budget. For some investors, this step may be completed by a contractor. However, if you are still in the evaluation stage, you may want to create an estimated repair budget to see if the property could be potentially profitable. Remember, estimating repair costs takes experience. As a beginner, you should first focus on material cost. Start by listing out each room of the property. Then list out all the material that will be needed to renovate that space. Try to be as detailed as possible. For example, renovating a bathroom may require a vanity, toilet, sink fixtures, shower fixtures, tile, and light fixtures. Once you have listed out as much material as possible, it's time to head over to your local Home Depot or Lowe's. You can also go online, but if you are new to renovations, I would recommend visiting the store so you get a better feel for the look and quality of the material. Again, estimating repair costs takes experience. As you begin to gain experience, the process will start to get easier. Once you become more familiar with brands and costs, you may be able to reuse prior estimates to quickly come up with a repair budget. You can also reuse a repair estimate from a contractor to quickly gauge rehab costs. The goal is to be as accurate as possible, and when in doubt, overestimate. It is always better to end up with a surprise savings than a surprise expense. Time is money. If you decide to pursue house flipping, you must become an expert at seek and destroy and closing the deal. For that reason, we are not going to revisit these topics. But if you need a refresher, you can reference these sections under Buying a Home. For this section, we are going to assume you have gotten your property under contract and closed the deal. With that said, this is where the clock starts and the real work begins. Remember, time is money. The goal of any fix and flip is to buy, repair, and sell the property as quick as possible. The longer it takes for you to repair and get the home sold, the more your costs will increase. That is why you must have a plan. If you are doing some of the work yourself, be prepared to dedicate the next couple months of your life to the project. If you are using a general contractor, make sure you manage your expectations and communicate with them frequently. I would also recommend having a backup general contractor available in case a change is needed mid-project. That's why it is important to get multiple bids from multiple contractors. Try to be in and out in less than 6 weeks. This means, from the day of closing to the day you put the home back on the market, should be roughly 45 days. Once you have completed your repairs, it's time to get the home ready for sale. The first thing to do is a full inspection of the property. Make sure there is no unfinished details or construction debris. You may want to consider having someone professionally clean the house. You want buyers to be excited about the home. As they say, there is never a second chance to make a first impression. So also consider staging the property. Staged properties sell faster and for more money, however, staging costs. A staging company may charge between $1,000 and $4,000 to stage a property. If that's not in the budget, try virtual staging. Work with your agent to formulate a marketing plan that works for you. An open house soon after the property is listed is always a good idea. Remember, flipping houses is challenging and no investment is guaranteed. Always have a plan and try your best to stick to it. I would recommend starting with a smaller project until you gain experience. Your first project will not be easy, however, if you take the time to do your research and put in the work, it can be a great investment opportunity. Airbnb. By now, I'm sure everyone is familiar with Airbnb. For those who are not, Airbnb is an online platform that allows property owners to list their homes for short-term rental. Whether it is their entire home, a basement apartment, or a spare bedroom, Airbnb has become a popular way for people to make money with the properties they own. Once you have decided to be a host on Airbnb, there are several things to consider before getting started. What to consider before starting Airbnb? What is your goal? Yes, we all want to make money, but what is your goal? Are you just trying to make extra income? Or are you trying to build a short-term rental empire? Depending on your goals, the amount of time and money involved will be different. So first, determine what type of host you want to be. I recommend starting small. Know the rules. As discussed in earlier chapters, when evaluating a real estate opportunity, you should always give a property the L.I.A.R test. Airbnb and short-term rental opportunities are no different, especially when it comes to rules. The laws surrounding Airbnb and short-term rentals vary from city to city and are constantly changing. Many of these rules place limits on how many days a property can be rented. They also place restrictions on the types of properties that can be rented. For example, an owner-occupied property may be allowed to rent 180 days a year, while an investment property may not be eligible for Airbnb or short-term rental at all. So the bottom line is, make sure you know the rules in your area. Time is money. Managing a successful Airbnb listing takes time and money. Make sure you have the time to invest, especially in the beginning. This includes investing time and money to stage and photograph the property. A properly staged listing with great photographs can be the difference between a successful or unsuccessful listing. Once the property has been staged and listed, you must ensure the property is adequately maintained. This means routine cleaning and restocking of any essentials. You will also be responsible for responding to any emergencies. All of this will take time and/or money and sometimes much more than you expected. So, make sure you have the time and energy to do what is necessary. Nosy neighbors. Whether you own or rent, most of us have neighbors. Some neighbors can be like family, but some can be your worst enemy. That said, make sure you consider the type of neighbors you have before listing a property on Airbnb. Since its inception, there has been plenty of controversies surrounding Airbnb, especially in residential neighborhoods. If you live in one of these neighborhoods or have nosy neighbors, you will want to be extra careful before listing on Airbnb. Decide if the potential headaches that come from nosy neighbors are worth the effort to host on Airbnb. Risk and liability. When you are hosting on Airbnb, you are literally inviting complete strangers into your home. If that alone makes you feel uneasy, you'll need to think twice about hosting on Airbnb. If having strangers staying with you is not ideal, your only option is to find and acquire a dedicated rental unit. Outside of personal safety, you are exposing yourself to a host of other risks by hosting on Airbnb. You're putting your property at risk of theft. You could potentially rent to a squatter. You could also be liable if your guests get injured or if they damage other property or injure neighbors. That said, with the proper Airbnb liability insurance coverage, you could minimize much of these risks. So, After taking the above into consideration, do you still want to start an Airbnb? If so, you will need to make a plan. Below is a 6-point checklist to get you started and help take your Airbnb from an idea to a business. Now, this assumes you already have a property secured. If not, start with the chapter on real estate and come back once you have secured a property. Airbnb 6-point checklist. Number 1. Start an account. I know that seems simple, but you would be surprised how many questions will be answered just by signing up for an account. In most cases, the app will help walk you through the listing process. Number 2. Clean and stage. This could be as simple as sprucing up a guest bedroom or as extensive as doing a full renovation. Either way, you will want to make sure the space is clean, stylish, and functional. Number 3. A picture is worth 1,000 words. This will be the most important part of your listing, especially in the beginning, before renters have had the opportunity to post reviews. With that said, make sure your pictures exaggerate the best features of your space and minimize any potential negatives. Now, I'm not saying to catfish prospective renters, but highlight the good. For example, if your property has a pool, gourmet kitchen, or even a king-size bed, be sure to capture a photo of these features in their best possible condition. As for negatives, if the space is small, try to take a wide-angle photo. Or you can focus or highlight its functionality. Like maybe there is an espresso maker, big screen TV, or great storage. Whatever the case, make sure you invest the time or money into getting great photos. Number 4. Talk is cheap. A good description always helps, but remember, talk is cheap. Avoid talking up your property with words like luxurious or lavish. What's luxury to one person may be basic to another. Plus, your pictures should exemplify the taste level of the space. When writing your description, try to stick to the facts. If you are in a great location, make sure to mention that. 1 block from the beach will stand out way more than luxurious studio apartment. Also, use the description to answer any logistical questions. Like, is the property close to public transportation or is there parking available? The more questions you can answer for a potential renter, the greater the chance they will want to book, and the less questions you will have to respond to. Number 5. Figure out entry and exit. You must have an access and security plan for Airbnb, even if that means you check in and check out each guest yourself. That method is probably not the best option, and I would highly recommend you automate the process. You can find keyless entry locks at Home Depot or Lowe's. This will allow you to provide the guest a passcode for entry and exit. This code can also be changed after each stay to ensure it is not used more than once. I would also recommend investing in a wireless camera, even if it's just a Ring camera on the front door. This way you can monitor the property without having to physically be there. As your bookings increase, having the option to automate entry will be priceless. Number 6. Cleaning and maintenance. Just like entry and exit, a cleaning and maintenance plan is essential to a successful Airbnb. Again, that could mean you clean the space after each stay. However, as your bookings increase, this could be more and more time-consuming. Eventually, you will want to hire someone to take care of cleaning. The good thing is, Airbnb allows you to add a cleaning fee, so you can use that to cover some of the expense.